What is going on, everyone? Jack here, and welcome back to JackDoesGaming. We are here with the brand new review for the channel. Now, in the last review that I did, Predator Concrete Jungle, I was dropping teasers throughout the video. Some were a little on the nose. I think some of them, flew over a few people's heads. But we're going to be talking about a favourite of mine, and it's one that I've really been looking forward to. And to save it for the 100 subscriber special was something that I thought makes a lot of sense for me. It was a huge milestone for myself, so thank you so much for the support on this channel so far, from the shorts to the actual videos and even the odd video game playthrough in between. I really appreciate it, and thank you for checking out all of the content. But we're back to business today, and we're going to be talking about not one, not two, but three PlayStation 1 games, all from my childhood, and were probably the reason why I am the gamer that I am today. We're going to be talking about Resident Evil on PS1, we're going to be talking about Resident Evil 2 on the PS1, and we're going to be talking about Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, which was my first ever PlayStation 1 game that I ever played, so this one holds a special place in my heart. This game franchise has seen many ups, it's seen a lot of downs, and there's a reason why the franchise went on ice for a while, but that's a topic for another video. We're going to be focusing on Resident Evil's arguably its golden era, or at least its first golden era, because it's on such a high right now, and with Resident Evil 9 launching in February, I figure this was a good time to make a start on reviewing the franchise. So today we're going to be covering Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, bit of an in-depth look. These are games that everyone's played, so I'm just going to be giving my 2 cents on these games, why I love them so much, and why they hold a special place in my heart. So, thank you guys for watching, and if you would consider subscribing, leaving a like and commenting any suggestions you have, sound off below. But without further ado, grab your magnums, grab your infinite rocket launchers, and grab your red and green herbs as we tackle the nostalgic survival horror of Resident Evil on the PlayStation 1. Resident Evil for the PlayStation 1 was released in 1996 and has been given the accolade of one of the most influential games ever made, and easily defined the horror genre. I like to think of Resi as the dad of the genre and Alone in the Dark as the granddad of the genre. It walked so that Resi could run. Resident Evil was conceptualized in Japan and is known as Biohazard due to copyright issues in North America. Capcom held a contest internally to find a name, and Resident Evil won it. This was all to avoid legal battles. The Japanese title was retained, and while the Western version uses Resident Evil, Japan have still used Biohazard to this day. It's so funny to me that even with the release of Resident Evil 7 Biohazard in 2017, Japan had just flipped the titles round and called it Biohazard 7 Resident Evil. There's something so meta and hilarious about that. In this game, you're a member of the Bravo division of the STARS team, Special Tactics and Rescue Service, who have been sent in to find Alpha Team after their helicopter was downed in the Arklay Mountains near Raccoon City. Upon discovering the wreckage, shit hits the fan so fast. The team take refuge in a nearby mansion where nothing's as normal as it seems, and the grounds in the mansion are overrun with zombies, dogs, hunters, spiders, and killer plants looking to make a meal out of you. You take control of either Chris or Jill and explore the mansion, killing bioweapons and uncovering the secrets of the Umbrella Corporation, the overarching villainous company throughout the games. In Chris's story, you and Wesker split up from the main lobby as Jill has mysteriously gone missing when entering the mansion. In Jill's story, you, Wesker, and Barry enter the mansion looking for Chris, who again goes mysteriously missing. The stories are very similar with the exception of a few things like inventory space and tools available to you. Chris has less space than Jill and is considered the harder version of the story. However, to compensate this, he can take more hits than Jill. Jill has more space and can bypass certain doors with the lockpick, making this easier out of the two. Personally, I prefer Jill's story. She's the more iconic of the two, and in terms of the original trilogy, she appears in 2 out of the 3 entries on the PlayStation 1. Plus, we get some iconic dialogue in her story, and it gave me the best line in any game ever, and it's the reason I have a gamer tag inspired by Resident Evil.
Oh, Barry!
That was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich.
You're right.
He said it! He said it!
Chef's kiss. Moving about the mansion is exciting, despite the data tank control movement and fixed camera angle design. For me, it's second nature. to operate Raccoon City in this space, but when some of my friends tried it for the first time, they struggled massively and would just prefer to watch me do my thing. No beef to Rebecca Chambers, who replaces Barry in Chris's story. I'm just here for the Jill Sandwich line and his delivery of the script. These supporting characters can either make it out alive or die depending on the actions and choices you make, allowing more than one playthrough to see the different endings. There's a reason Capcom did this, as it really hypes up the tension and raises the stakes, proving why Resident Evil is a staple in the genre. Resident Evil is one of the highest selling PlayStation games of all time. By the end of December 1997, it had sold about 4 million copies and grossed more than 200 million, and this was the year before Resi 2 dropped, so they were churning out these games at a fast rate, with the third entry releasing quite literally a year after Resident Evil 2. They absolutely cooked with these games. So let's talk about the game itself. In the world of Resident Evil, you can interact with certain objects in the environment and pick up items that will help you in the future. You do have limited inventory space as mentioned before, so you do have to be careful with what you pick up. I used to always keep a mental note of where some items are, but fellow scumbag Wes helped me get into the habit of picking items up and dropping them off at the item box. And trust me, you don't want to come across a boss fight with low health items if you're going to take it head on. Your health operates on a colour code, green being healthy or fine, yellow is caution and red is danger. If you work it out, it equals to 100% to 75% being healthy, 75% to 25% being caution, and 25% to 0% being danger. If you die, it's back to the last time you saved, which if you're me and tried doing no save runs in my early days, it was a significant obstacle. To heal yourself, you can use either a first aid spray or green herbs. The green herbs can also be mixed with other green herbs, up to a maximum of 2 or 3 I believe, and red herbs can increase the amount of health you can get back. Combining a green herb with a blue herb also heals you from poison. Speaking of saving as well, allow me to introduce to you the ink ribbons. In each safe room is a typewriter which allows you to save your progress. The ink ribbons are limited in supply, so use them wisely. I personally have never used up all of them, but I feel like for a new player it's a possibility. You don't have to fight every creature you come across, and it's here that the strategy becomes a necessity. There will be some areas that you can bypass enemies and completely ignore them, but there are also some that you will have to stand your ground and fight, especially in bottleneck areas such as corridors. The zombies aren't really a threat unless they all gang up on you. The dogs are fairly neutral until you either get too close or attack first, and the spiders can be a threat due to the poison attacks that they have, and the hunters can instantly kill you if you aren't careful enough. Some also are more of a nuisance than anything. I'm looking at you, Crows and Chimera. Did I mention that this game has puzzles? Yeah, it's got puzzles. I'm going to pose a question later on in the video regarding the puzzles, but for now, let's just say that there is a lot of exploration and item grabbing to be had. Backtracking and resource management is crucial. You may find yourself running around a lot if you don't prepare, and it can lead to moments of danger, hence the strategy with enemies. This game is stunning to look at. Pre-rendered backgrounds and fantastic level, character and creature design make it stand out. The music and sound design is great too. Well, except for this. Help me! This is a game I always revisit for Halloween, and it just hits hard with the horror and campy B-movie vibe. It's camp, it's scary, it's fun as hell, and serves as a reminder of how far both Resident Evil and horror games as a whole have come. My favourite location in the game, ironically, is the residents' quarters. Fuck those spiders though. The bosses you encounter are Yawn, Plant 42, Black Tiger and Tyrant. Yawn is a gigantic snake responsible for killing Alpha Team member Richard. Yawn is where the poison mechanic is introduced if you aren't careful. Next we have Plant 42, a gigantic plant rooted in the residents' quarters. You can either take it head on and unleash all of the ammo in the world onto it, or you can take a cheeky detour and craft the V-Jolt to dispose of it quickly. Black Tiger is the big boy of the spiders and resides in the caves. You can bypass this boss if you have either flame rounds for the grenade launcher or the knife. Lastly, we have the Tyrant, a prototype bioweapon that Umbrella are working on over the course of the games. It gets bigger, it gets badder, and it gets smarter. There is a hidden villain here in the game as well, and would you believe it, it's fellow STARS member Albert Wesker.
It's you! It's you!
Yeah.
Just look at him, he screams supervillain. Wesker, you ain't slick, bruh. This is the only entry in the original trilogy that Wesker appears in, but it sets the stage for him to show up again in the future with one hell of a genetic upgrade. The weapons available to you from the get-go are a survival knife and handgun known as the Beretta M92FS. Throughout the game, you'll gain access to other weapons such as the shotgun and the magnum. These weapons are obtainable through natural progression and exploration, however, be prepared to sacrifice extra space for these, as weapons do take up inventory space as well. You've really got to think about what weapons are best at dealing with certain enemies. This doesn't just apply to the game, it applies to pretty much all of them. For example, the shotgun is super effective against hunters and spiders, whereas the pistol will do a lot less and you'll burn through ammo more. Using the grenade launcher against the zombies is just overkill, and despite being hilarious to see it blow up, it's a waste and it'll be a detriment to you later on. What I love about this game is how the story unfolds and how it plants seeds for the future of the series. The story has some issues in some areas, it's not exactly a masterpiece, but like I said, it's B-movie fun and it feels straight out of a George A. Romero's filmography, which funnily enough was almost a possibility in the 90s. The presence of the Umbrella Corporation is felt throughout the game and it shows the horrors that they're capable of, especially late game and second game onwards. The T-Virus is the cause of everything going wrong in the mansion, and the bits of lore dotted around for you to collect really ramp up the fear. Just look at this entry from a worker at the mansion. Oh my god, how could I forget about Neptune? Although it is a momentary encounter, it's amazing seeing what Capcom did to make something already terrifying that much more of a threat. There's barely any content here with Neptune for you to sink your teeth into, but in the remake we got a lot more in this section of the game and it was brilliant. Fighting the Tyrant is a formula that is more or less carried over into the sequel. The original prototype Tyrant is somewhat slow and can easily be dispatched of, making it the weakest final boss in the OG trilogy. We now leave the mansion behind and move into Raccoon City, where the outbreak has started and the city has gone to shit. Originally, this game was designed as Resident Evil 1.5 and it was drastically different. Shinki Mikami, the director of Resi 1, was producing this entry, and the director of 2 was Hideki Kamiya. However, during development, Mikami had cancelled it as he was unimpressed with the look and feel of the game. The final version of what we got introduced a more cinematic presentation. The game, much like the first one, has some wonky voice acting in certain areas, but as mentioned before, it just adds to the charm of these games. Much like the first one, it's hailed as one of the greatest video games ever made, and it's the best-selling Resident Evil game for a single platform at more than 6 million copies sold across all platforms. You play as Leon Kennedy and Claire Redfield in this game, and rather than it just being the two stories, you play two different versions, where some things will get swapped around or altered entirely. This is known as the A scenario and B scenario. Leon's a rookie cop who is entering Raccoon City as the new guy in the RPD, and Claire is looking for her brother Chris. Both cross paths and end up joining forces to get out of the city and deal with any threats that they encounter. Resident Evil 2 follows the same formula as the first game, searching the police station for items and solving puzzles to escape and get to the next area. A lot of the same things from the game have carried over, such as healing, inventory and saving. There really isn't that much of a difference between the two games other than setting and the enemy types that you fight. Joining the fray, we have Lickers, Mr. X, Ivy Plants, and a new virus mutation known as the G-Virus. Capcom are really creative with their names and I love it. In place of Barry and Rebecca, we have Ada Wong and Sherry Birkin. Ada is involved in Leon's campaign and Sherry is a part of Claire's. The biggest difference between the protagonists of the first game and the second is how they interact with each other. As mentioned before, in the first you only play as the characters in their own story and then meet up at the end depending on the choices and actions you make. In this game, Claire's and Leon's runs almost alongside each other, with moments where they briefly interact with one another. It's far and few in between, but its strength lies in building up the relationship with them and really highlights the camaraderie that these two have for one another. This city is in absolute ruin, and Umbrella deploy the latest in the Tyrant program known as Mr. X, who relentlessly hunts you down in certain areas. For the remake, he's a lot more present, especially in Leon's story. However, here it's more or less a preview of what's to come in the third entry. The Lickers are absolutely terrifying, hunting purely on sound and able to climb walls. It's an absolute monster to deal with, and it's best to stealth it as best you can. The way I look at it, I just see a Licker and think inside out venom. The ivy plants are tied with Lickers for most deadly. If they grab you, it's pretty much game over. Plus, they have a ranged poison attack that'll fuck you up and can leave you cornered and unable to fight if you are ganged up on by them. Resident Evil has one of the best scores of anything I've ever played, and the music that comes to mind for me when I think Resident Evil 2 is when you enter the RPD main hall. It's so eerie, and it really gives you a sense of safety, even with the knowledge of the horrors that lie beyond the main hall. I said it before and I'll say it again. Fuck them spiders. Leon is in the top 3 protagonists for me, along with Jill and Claire. Here in Resi 2, he's the youngest he's been in the series, and seeing his development as a character is a breath of fresh air. Going from a young buck who wants to be a police officer to becoming the president's bodyguard and gaining a cynical, grizzled outlook on life in Resident Evil 4, it's quite a contrast. He still maintains that level of humour, but he is much older and he is a lot more cynical. Claire is so headstrong and is quite clearly very protective of her brother and really looks up to him. It's a shame that we haven't had any more games with Claire outside of Code Veronica and Revelations 2. However, should she show up in Resident Evil 9 with Leon, it will well and truly tickle my tism, and I feel like it would bring the story of Raccoon City full circle. To round off the Resi 2 portion of the video, I'd just like to talk about the game's big bad, William Birkin. This dude is arguably the reason why the events of Resident Evil 2 take place. He works for Umbrella on the G-Virus, something he takes sole credit for, and favours it more than he does his own wife and daughter. He's ambushed by Umbrella and gunned down, but before they can get away with the samples of the G-Virus, he injects himself with it and becomes G. I told you, Capcom are super creative with the names. Through the game you encounter him in different scenarios, and depending on who you play as and where you're at, depends on the advancement of his mutation. He goes from looking fairly human to absolutely monstrous. The boss fight at the end of the game where he's in his 4th stage was something else, and was definitely one of my favourite boss fights. This is enhanced by the amazing score composed by Masami Ueda. I really apologise if I said that wrong, by the way. His humanity disappears more and more as time goes on, and I liken him to Seth Brundle from The Fly. The city of Raccoon City may never recover from this ordeal that Umbrella has caused, but we're not done yet, as we have one more entry on this list to talk about. Here we are, my favourite entry of the original trilogy, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis. Originally, this game was designed to be a spin-off title featuring a different protagonist and was developed alongside Code Veronica. The game focuses on Jill escaping the city and also introduces my favourite villain and arguably Resident Evil's mascot, the Nemesis. Fun fact, he was inspired by the T-1000 from Terminator 2, and it's interesting that maybe, just maybe, if we never had Terminator 2, or at least Terminator in general, we wouldn't have had Nemesis the way that he is. This game is such a blast to play. It focuses more on action than it does survival horror, but the survival horror is absolutely still there, looking at you, Dead Space 3. There's an emphasis on survivability and resistance to the onslaught of enemies here in the third game. It's not just zombies, dogs, drain demos, and big fuck-off worms you gotta look out for. It's Nemesis, and unlike Mr. X, he's not limited to one area at a time. Once he shows up, it's game on, and boy does he bring it. This game runs alongside Resident Evil 2, so it's crazy that it is the sequel, but it's also happening alongside or kind of like in between the events of Resident Evil 2. It's really well done. Resident Evil 3 brings a unique mechanic to the encounters with Nemesis. There are certain moments where you can make a choice that will alter the course of the story. For example, the first time you encounter him, you can either stand your ground and fight, or flee and run into the police station.
I am not Coward!
If you flee, you won't get too far ahead, as he likes to surprise you with a rocket launcher. Jill's able to dodge and avoid attacks in the game, however, it has a steep learning curve. You have to get good fast or Nemesis will actually murder you alive. As well as the dodge mechanic, Jill can also 180 on the spot and run the other way, allowing a quicker escape and faster reaction. One thing that's also different from the first two games is that you can now create ammo with the reload tool. Combine gunpowder that you find with different variations of the gunpowder to create different types of ammo. Once again, puzzles are here, and arguably more present than they were in the second game. Remember earlier on when I said I have a question about the puzzles? Well, now I'm going to pose that question to you. How does anyone get anything done in the world of Resident Evil? Oh, you want to get this key from the clock? Too bad, because I expect you to play Moonlight Sonata perfectly, and I hope you remembered the shield from the dining room, cause without it, you'll have a bad time. Oh, you need this cool medal behind the wall? Too bad, because I want you to tell me the aging process of this person through the paintings. Don't get it wrong, or else the crows will make sure you have a bad time. Oh, you need to get through the waterfall? Too bad, because the medals you need are spread out, and without them you won't be able to. I hope you picked them up when you needed to, or else you'll have a bad time. Oh, you need to get the clock tower up and running again. Too bad, because you need to get a golden cog from a stupid painting puzzle and hope to God that you can put the orbs in the right order and get 10 PM on the clock. Oh, you're struggling? Well, guess what? You're having a bad time! Can you imagine if someone was fired from the clock tower because they missed painting puzzle at work day? Raccoon City is madness. This logic also applies to Silent Hill, but at least there it makes sense. Joins forces with Carlos, a member of the UBCS known as Umbrella Biohazard Countermeasure Service. They have a plan to get a tram going to get survivors out of the city. Unbeknownst to them, one of their own, Nikolai, is double-crossing them and stopping them at every chance he can to ensure his own survival. Nemesis is less of a boss fight bonanza and more of an obstacle that knows what buttons to push. There are moments where he will face you 1v1, but his presence is truly felt all over the city. The concept of you running through the streets, doing what you need to do while being watched is nerve-wracking. Just because you can't see Nemesis doesn't mean he can't see you. He's studying you. He's learning, and this game was one of the best examples I can think of where the AI isn't scripted. You want to engage in the fight with Nemesis? Guess what? He can dodge your shots. You took him down? Well done. He'll be showing up again shortly. Cornered? Too bad. Say bye-bye, Jill. Look at this moment here when I was recording this walkthrough. The scumbags were watching and I got made to look like a fool. Yeah.
You might want to come back here later and pick up any loose items.
Okay. Oh! Shit! Oh, shit!
You have an age.
Shit!
Nemesis just fucking swinging for everyone.
Fucking hell. As time goes on, depending on how you encounter Nemesis, his mutation and appearance changes, and it almost feels like halfway through the game it becomes less about eliminating stars and more about eliminating Jill. It becomes personal and really highlights the relentless pursuit and highlights how above everything else, Nemesis will not stop hunting you down. Even when he's on his last legs, he still tries. It's absolutely terrifying. Say it with me again. Fuck them spiders. I absolutely love Jill, and I have done ever since the first game. But here it's all about her. She's reeling from the mansion incident and just wants to escape and feel a sense of normality, but inherently she knows that a normal life is a thing of the past. And with how her story unfolds in later entries, normal is so far away it's practically unobtainable. This game also gave me one of the most iconic quotes from the Resident Evil series. Nemesis only ever speaks one word amongst the roars, and that word is stars. As well as that quote, Jill's iconic, "You want stars, I'll give you stars," is honestly has big fuck you energy.
You want stars? I'll give you stars.
I didn't want to include footage from the remakes in this video as it was purely focusing on the originals, But for this part I've made an exception. It's my video, fucking sue me, nerds. The remake of 3 is by far the most divisive remake Capcom churned out in the Resident Evil franchise, removing a lot of the content from here and bogging it all down to a runtime of roughly 2, maybe 3 hours at most. Nemesis is no longer free of AI script and is heavily featured in more scripted events, taking away a lot of his presence and nerfing him into more of a punching bag than a relentless threat. It's not a bad game by any means, but in terms of comparison, it really does not hit that level that the original operated at. I can't hate the experience though. The chase scene with the rocket launcher in the remake was class, and Nemesis's redesign is really good. I am a sucker for the OG design. It's iconic, it's classic, but this new design goes very hard. There's something very raw about it, there's something very unfinished about it, but he just looks like he could absolutely do some damage. I'd like to think that this is it now for Nemesis in terms of appearance. This version is what made it into Dead by Daylight and even the Resident Evil experience in Japan, which, thanks Lee, thanks for showing me that, because now I really want to go to Japan. I don't fuck with the nose though. The nose is really off-putting. Like, why did you give him a nose? Like, it's just so jarring to look at. The soundtrack for Resident Evil 3 is my favourite one. Masami Ueda, again, I apologise if I'm not saying that right, knocks it out of the park again. This applies to both the original and the remake. Replaying these games again for the video was a joy, and no doubt I'll be checking them out again for Halloween alongside the 4th, 5th, definitely not the 6th one. Well, maybe the 6th one, I don't know. 6th one's a bit of a letdown. It's like if Michael Bay made a Resident Evil movie. On paper that's not a bad thing, but as a game it's not very good. The franchise is one that I'm going to be very sad about when it ends come February from a mainline game perspective. I believe we'll still be getting spin-off games, and while I'm sad about it, I can never have enough Resident Evil. It's my #1 franchise in gaming, and one phrase I love to throw around is, I'm a slut for Resi. And with that, our time with the OG trilogy comes to an end. I appreciate you being patient enough waiting for this video. It's my longest one yet and I wanted it to be perfect. I'm trying to consistently get content out in between work and adult life responsibilities. It's not easy, but mama didn't raise no quitter. Unless it's uni. Then, yeah, I quit, but hey, I still graduated. What do you think of Resident Evil? Love it? Hate it? Will you be checking it out if you haven't already? Thanks for watching, everyone. I'll see you soon in my next video where me and Kyle check out Motor Toon Grand Prix 2, a game from the PS1. And it's a game that I had no idea existed until Kyle told me about it. Stay cool, stay humble. Love you all. Bye guys.